Welcome back, everyone. It is a very special episode. It is Super Bowl Saturday. Not quite Super Bowl Sunday yet, but it is upon us. And today we have a very special guest joining us for the entirety of the show. Ryan Walsh, thank you again for coming over and lending us a hand today.
Always happy to join the show. I love the show. I love the work that you guys do. And yeah, it'll be fun. I don't talk a lot of, I've been talking more national football here since I have the show with Shane Graham now, but I'm used to talking Lions all day like you guys are. So it'll be fun to talk about some national football picture here.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the best, I would say, Sunday of the year for most Lions fans, as the Super Bowl, or I said Lions fans, for all football fans, I should say. Because the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter who's playing at this point. It's like it doesn't matter if I'm a fan of the team. We're all watching as a nation. So it's definitely a holiday in my home. But with that being said, today we have some really fun things planned. We have some trivia going on. We have some predictions. We also have some other things that are going to be pretty fun coming out through the show. So just to get it started off, we're going to start it off by talking about, the last matchup that this team had in the Super Bowl because it was not that long ago, and it's pretty fresh in everyone's memory for one play call in specific. And I think everybody can kind of glean what I'm talking about there. But last time these two teams matched up in the Super Bowl was 2015. The Patriots took the win 28-24 over the Seahawks, and that controversial call was to not give Marshawn Lynch the ball. And personally, for me, it's one of my favorite Super Bowls because, that was right around the time I started really, really caring about football because I'm a bit younger than a lot of
I was
people
gonna
that
say
I'm
you
sure are
kid.
watching. So, like the first Super Bowl I remember, which we'll talk about a little bit later, was the New England Patriots losing to the Giants in 2008 or 2007. That was like one of the first Super Bowls I can actually vividly remember. So that if that tells you anything about my age. But with that being said, we'll just go around the panel here and kind of conversate about the last game because I know there's some parallels, coming into this game. So Ryan, we'll start off with you. What are your thoughts on, the parallels between the two games and, the last time these two teams matched up?
Well, you hit on the big point from that game. I think the thing that it makes me think of for this particular game is that we're not necessarily going to see something kind of wild like that. These are two teams that are built around establishing the run game, the trenches, and so the controversial call to not go with Marshawn Lynch and not go with the run. I think these are going to be two heavy run teams here. They both have a dynamic passing attack. I know we'll talk about that a little bit as we go on, but it's interesting because Drake May just finished second in the MVP race, close MVP race, great year, deserves a lot of credit for what he did. But it's almost like you have more credit in the go seeing Sam Darnold as he's kind of arced up in the playoffs too. So, but both teams I see leaning on the interior for a lot of the game. So I don't know if I see that same thing happening, but I think it'll come down to the trenches and maybe some special team stuff, which we'll talk about later. But I know James has probably got some stuff on this. My question to James is, how do you feel about Jace talking about his first Super Bowl that he remembers being in 2008? Because when we were thinking about favorite Super Bowls, mine's before that. I don't know if yours is, James. And I was in my fifth year of college when mine was, and it was before the first one that Jace remembers.
Yeah, that I don't want to say upsets me greatly because over our podcasting history, he's mentioned several things that bring up like, what do you mean you were in high school when that happened? And I'm actually trying to Google right now because the first Super Bowl that I remember it was the Denver Broncos, so I want to say it was 98. Yeah, against the Packers, 98. Terrell Davis and John Elway. So 98 was at least my first Super Bowl memory. I was younger, of course, but that was the first one I remember, and the first time I really kind of watched with intent of just like, I guess I would say analyzing the game, not just sitting back and just players are running around. Because 98, I was only 8. So yeah, and then also when we have our show sheet off to the side, and I know we'll talk about it more in detail later, but one of my favorite Super Bowls was 34. So it pains me when I see some of the numbers with next to Jace's favorites here. So they come significantly after that. I'll just say that much without spoiling his his favorite games there.
Yeah, and when I saw yours, I was like, oh, geez, maybe I'm a little too recent here because mine are like 51, and it's like, oh, that's about
Yeah,
20 spots
34,
higher.
43. Yep.
But yeah, so with that being said, great points by both you guys, and Ryan, great point there with, the trenches probably coming into be a big problem for both teams, or a big strong strength for both teams this time around, because I agree with that 100%, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when I get to my best bets, because I did take that into account when I set my lines. But with that being said, is there anything you guys want to add on that before we move on?
I think I'm good on that one. Yeah, I'm good with moving on to whatever we got scheduled next here.
I am as
All
well.
right. So, with that being said, we are going to start our trivia. Okay, so the way that this is going to work is we're each going to take a turn, and we each get a chance to pass. You get one pass per round. Each round is just each question, to kind of simplify it. So, basically, what's going to happen is, Ryan, you'll go first. I'll ask you a trivia question. You can pass it to James, and then you can pass it to me if you'd like, if you don't know the answer. If you get it wrong, you have to take a drink. So, it's a bit of a drinking game, kind of fun, should loosen us up a little bit as the show goes on. And, it's going to be a lot of fun. So we've got quite a bit of questions here. But here is the first one. So, Ryan, which team has appeared in, this is way too easy, in 4 Super Bowls, but never held the lead at any point during those games?
So yeah, we're talking the league as a whole, obviously, with that question. We're not just drilling down to these 2 teams. So that's Let's see, the lead at any point is that I've got it's got to be Buffalo, right?
Yeah, and I think it makes it a little easier with the 4, because it's like, what team has been in 4 Super Bowls and lost other than Buffalo, really? I mean, maybe there's other ones, but we don't really hear about it.
Yeah, I didn't know
much.
they never had the lead, but they're obviously famous for going 0-4.
Yeah, that's how I got it, because I didn't remember that part, because you think of the close field goal at the end where they almost won, the whole Norwood thing and all that. What were you going to say, Jason?
I think I got too ahead of myself. It wasn't Buffalo. I was so sure it was Buffalo. It was Minnesota.
I should have
Minnesota.
We should know that as Lions fans.
Yeah, that really surprises me, though. I'm trying to think what Super Bowls that they were in. 4 Super Bowls that they never held a lead. That's kind of crazy. But I guess that is what it is. So with that being said, it looks like James has froze. So I will take the next question. The next question is, let's see, which running back holds the career record for rushing yards in Super Bowl history? 354 yards across 4 games. Oh, well, we just talked about Minnesota, but it obviously isn't one of their guys, because they were, in it for a long time, or they were in it throughout time, I should say. I want to say the Bills running back, but I want to say Thurman Thomas, but I'm not even sure he was the Bills running back at the time, if I'm being honest with you. So
that's a good guess. I like that as a guess, Jace. I'm not looking that up, by the way. I'm looking up the Vikings thing. You're looking down. I'm not cheating.
I think I'm gonna go Thurman Thomas and see. Okay, no, I was incorrect. It is Franco Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which makes a lot of sense. They had been one of the best teams for 20 years. 354 yards across 4 Super Bowls is kind of crazy. So, James, I will take my drink with my beautiful Lions chalice.
I should have grabbed my Lions cup. I don't know what else.
Which this color in my cup will tell you a little bit about my Super Bowl prediction later. Just that being said.
I like it.
So, James, name the only city to host a Super Bowl where the halftime show was followed by a stadium power outage. And extra points if you can name which Super Bowl this was.
Boy.
Well, the power outage was Baltimore versus San Francisco, the
Mhm.
Harbaugh Bowl. That's when Flacco beat Kaepernick. What number it is?
I'll give you that. I feel like that's
Okay.
good enough.
I'll say I'm like that's the only besides the Harbaugh brothers going head to head. The only other thing I remember about that is the power outage.
Hmm.
But yeah, I have no idea what number it is.
And then which city did that happen in?
Oh.
That's a tough one. That one's a little
Yeah, because they
harder
play
than
at neutral. Well, most of the time it's neutral. Was that in San Francisco?
it was not. It was in New Orleans, actually,
Okay.
which that one's a kind of a tough question. So I'll
Wasn't
give you some slack on that. It's always hard to remember what city it's in because it's like it seems like they do the same 6 cities. It's just they revolve it, so it's hard to always remember.
I was half right because in my head I had Candlestick in my head, and I'm like, okay, that one is in San Francisco, but it's just not that stadium. So I just was thinking of the wrong stadium. So my bad on that.
So far after one round of each having one question, we all got it wrong.
Not doing great. Not doing
Not
great.
doing
Jokes on
too
you
hot.
guys. I want a drink, but
Very good point.
James is going to know the answer, and he's just going to tank one. He's gonna say, I think that was Babe
it's
Ruth,"
possible.
and
Like
then
Right.
what
yeah.
little reputation I have, I can't ruin. So
It's so early in the show, man. Get a buzz on. Let's do it.
yeah, there you go.
With that being said, though, going back to Ryan now, which player was the first black quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl?
I've got to think. Was there one before Doug Williams? I got to think it was Doug Williams.
You are correct, sir.
Okay. Good. I redeemed myself. And also on the minute, I have a note on the Minnesota thing. 70, 74, 75, and 77. So that was even before my day. I don't know what my first Super Bowl that I remember was, but I was at the last time the Lions were winning in the playoffs back in the early 90s. I was at those games to give you an indication of games that I remember. So, but I'm not quite that old. So yeah, those were all in the 70s. Those
See,
Vikings
I can finally fill Jace's shoes on this one. When we won this, or when we won the Super Bowl, when we won the playoff game against Dallas in '91, which you said you attended, I was born in '91. So
There we go.
I
I'm
can be
here.
the young guy in this
Yeah,
in this example.
I'm here for demo reasons here.
So, with that being said, James, your question is, what is the lowest scoring Super Bowl in history? You can get multiple points with this, okay? And I guess you're getting kind of lucky because you seem to get all the multiple points questions. But
Yeah,
with
but
that
I'm
being
wrong.
said, true. Does that mean multiple drinks? That's the
Yeah.
question. He's like, I'll take it, right? But with that being said, what was the lowest scoring Super Bowl in history? What was the points and which two teams played in it? And actually, this one, I wouldn't be surprised if you got right.
I can't remember the score, but at least the first one that comes to my head is the Rams when they had Jared Goff. Because I know the Rams themselves only had 3. I think they played New England.
Yes, sir. And you are
I
correct.
think New England only had 17.
Oh, you were so close. They had 13, so it was a total of 16 points
Ah.
between the two. But hey, I'll give it to you. You got the first half of the question right. So,
As a big golf supporter, that one's been thrown in my face a few times. So
right, that one's hard to forget as a Lions fan because
yeah,
that
I'm like, I
seems
remember
to
the
be what
Rams with
everybody
3.
says.
Also, in case Ryan wasn't around or hasn't seen one of our shows where I mentioned it, I grew up more of a Rams fan than a Lions fan. And then as I got older, I kind of learned a little bit more about hometown pride, so I came over to the light side. But yeah, back in those days, I was rooting for the Rams. So
So did it coincide with the move then? Was it the trade or was it before?
Oh, it was well before that.
Okay.
Growing up, early, by the time I started actually watching football, I was probably like 97, 98, and the Lions sucked. I mean, it's not putting them down, it's just stating what was going on. And the Rams had Marshall Faulk and Kurt Warner and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and Aeneas Williams and all those guys, Oz Hakim, who later became a Lion. And they were just so much fun to watch. And I was a college football fan before an NFL football fan, and the old school Rams helmets had the kind of the wing ram horn to it, and it kind of looked like Michigan to me. So they were blue and gold colors, so they kind of looked like the NFL version of the Michigan Wolverines for a kid. Because I know when I told one of my coworkers that not even too long ago, he looked them up. He's like, "That doesn't look anything alike." I'm like, "I was like 9, dude." Like, but no, I was let's see, I was a Lions fan for all of 0 and 16, so I don't want to hear nothing about that.
I was at the 16th loss, so that's one of my best bona fides there.
I remember like currently, like as I sit here today, and I've said multiple times on X in case anyone thinks I'm just full of crap, but Stafford is still my favorite Lion of all time. I remember being disappointed when we drafted him because I wanted Aaron Curry, the linebacker, who was out of the league in like 2 years because he was so terrible. But he was like a god in college, so I was really hoping we got him. But it worked out somewhat. We at least got out of the dark ages with that one.
That's what I love too. You know, being the young guy in this conversation, I began being a Lions fan in 2008. So I come from the bottom. All right. I remember watching the Lions lose every game, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to follow this team. And to this day, I don't know why I did that. I don't know what happened in my 7-year-old brain where I thought that was a good idea. I think it was just Calvin Johnson looked really cool, and that's kind of what happened there.
I watched him in college.
Oh yeah. See, and that's the thing, like. Yeah. Anyway, I won't bore you with stories about me being young because we all know that. But with that being said, my question is, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this one. Which head coach has the most Super Bowl losses with 4 shared by 4 different coaches? Okay, so there's 4 of them that I could get. I don't know if I'm gonna. Let me think. So Bill Belichick has 7 rings, right? Or 6. Did they go to 10 Super Bowls, I think, right?
That would be one of my first. I have 2 first thoughts. That's one of them.
I think that would be my guess just because that's the easy one. But I'm going to go with that. And I was incorrect. Okay, well, that's awesome.
Okay. Guess, though, because you have to have volume for this one. You have to have, obviously, they have to have gone to a certain amount of Super Bowls. And I guess we got one from a previous question, but I got to think of who the coach was.
Yeah, I have no idea who that coach was, but that's what I was thinking from the prior question.
Exactly. So the 4 coaches that went or had 4 losses, I should say, were Bud Grant with the Vikings, Don Shula with the Colts and the Dolphins, Dan Reeves with the Broncos and Falcons, and then Marv Levy with the Bills. So
that's the one I had was the Bills one, and then I was probably going to get to Grant, but it would have taken me a little while from the Vikings.
And honestly, I don't even know who Marv Levy is. That was the first time I think I've heard the name, and I have heard that the Buffalo. I've watched so many NFL Lifes or whatever on the Buffalo Bills going 0-4 in those Super Bowls. I don't think I ever heard them say the coach's name once. So, sorry about that, Marv. That's on me. I should have known. But with that being said, moving back to you, Ryan. In Super Bowl, see, I suck at Roman numerals, so I don't know which Super Bowl this is. XLIII. I want to say that's 50-48.
You said XL?
XLIII. I want to say that's 48.
43.
43. Shit. All right. Well, I was close. Anyway, in Super Bowl 43, who caught the game-winning touchdown with just 35 seconds left?
Oh, see, I'm not gonna know because I don't know what the teams were.
So I'll tell you, it was Pittsburgh, Arizona.
Okay.
I do wish
Um,
this was my question because this is my second favorite Super Bowl I have written down.
let's see. So hit me with the question one more time. Who caught the touchdown, the late touchdown in that game
So,
to win?
who caught the game-winning touchdown with just 35 seconds left in the Steelers-Cardinals Super Bowl?
It's ironic because I my favorite Super Bowl for when we talk about that, which is why I knew what number this was, is the XL one, which is 40 when it was in Detroit when Pittsburgh matched up with Seattle the time before they were matching up with the Patriots the last time, and that was the famous one where Randall L threw to Ward in that game. And so now those two are in my head, but I can't remember if Randall L was still on the team at that point in time. So there's that part of it. And then you've got the new wave of receivers that was in there. And I can't remember what era that was, if it was like the Mike Wallace era or Plaxico Burress or, so I've got a few names. And I feel like one of those guys might be one of them. I got to think of tight ends maybe too, because you got Heath Miller and all of that kind of stuff. But I could, if I keep going through the archives, I'm going to take us over an hour with just this answer. So I can't do that. Go ahead.
I do believe, as we mentioned before, you can pass if you want to.
Well, I'm tempted to do that just to get James's answer on it, since he wants to answer. I think I have a reasonable way of guessing, but I don't know it. I know I don't know it. I would be guessing based on context clues. So I'm going to pass it to James just so he can get the glory here and answer it.
Yeah, watch me be wrong after being so confident. But no, that was Santonio Holmes.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't have that as one of my names yet. See, I hadn't gotten to that in the archives. I didn't want to be wrong and have it be Randall L., but I didn't think he was on the team by that time. I think that was after he'd moved over to Washington.
Yeah, and I only know it because, like I mentioned, I'm like, Jace asked for us to have our one or two favorite Super Bowls, and that San Antonio Holmes catch is what made that whole moment, the build up to it, the drive, because it's a tiptoe touchdown catch with contact. It's like in my opinion, it's a top 5 catch of all time, and like I don't think he did too much else after. I mean, I know he was a decent receiver, but like that's his moment. That's his Malcolm Butler moment. Hopefully that doesn't spoil a future question. But
fortunately not, as the next question, which will bounce back to you, Ryan, since you passed. The next question is, which 4 teams have won at least one Super Bowl but have never lost in a Super Bowl?
Interesting. That's kind of a tough one. Okay, so so you've got to go kind of the reverse of what your question was then, and think of teams that really haven't been prominent in the Super Bowl. I got to take a few shots of this. Okay, so I can't remember if Washington lost one. Obviously, we had a previous question where they had one. Are they one of them?
They are not.
Okay,
and
so
I'll give you a pass on that one.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let me think of some of the other teams that have. Obviously, it's not either of the teams that are playing this weekend. Pittsburgh had to have lost one, right? In their run. That's too many Super Bowls. I have to imagine they lost one. Denver. Did Denver lose any?
They did.
Okay. See,
and actually, they lost to Seattle. Then that big blowout loss with Peyton Manning at the helm.
Oh, see, I forgot they lost one with Manning. I was thinking of the one that they won with.
Yeah,
with
I didn't realize they made it to 2. I remember the one they won with Manning.
I do remember that now, but I didn't.
Well,
so that at the time.
The play of that game, and that always sticks in my head, is the first snap where the ball goes over Peyton Manning's head into the end zone, and that was where the blowout began. I think it was 46-8 was the end score On
Maybe
that
that's why
one.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was an ugly, ugly game. Percy Harvin returned the kickoff and at half for a touchdown, and they were already up by 30. Like just a very, very let's chat Super
What
Bowl.
year was that one?
I want to say 2013, but I could be wrong. But 2013 was the Harbaugh Bowl, but it was around that time, 2014, in that span.
Has New Orleans lost one?
Yes, they
Okay.
have.
I'm not going to get this one. Then I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of teams that have won, but I guess I'm not thinking of the loss piece of it.
So that was a very tough question. So, I don't blame you on that one. I don't think I would have got that one. I don't know if any of us, if we could have gotten that together, to be honest with you. But with that being said, the answer was Green Bay, New York Jets, Kansas City Chiefs, and Baltimore Ravens. So
Okay.
that's one of those, though, that you kind of have to like go down the whole list of NFL teams and think back in your head, which one, okay, when were they in a Super Bowl? When did they play? Who do they beat? Like, so that's, yeah, very tough question there.
Well, that's got to be a little older, right? Because the Chiefs
Chiefs lost
lost.
in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's got to be that's probably before last year.
Yeah, it must be but yeah, like you said, before last season. So guess that would even be incorrect.
Didn't he just do that?
Yeah, right. Excuse me. But with that being said, my question, oh my God. Okay, that's the same question we already got, so I'm just gonna skip that one. Who is the only player to win Super Bowl MVP despite their team losing the game? Holy shit. Ooh, I don't know. And I'm tempted to pass this, but I don't want to just because Ryan had two back-to-back difficult questions. So I might take this one on the chin. I genuinely have no idea who this could even be because it doesn't tell me what team they played for or what year it happened. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Ben Roethlisberger, I guess, when they lost to the Packers. I don't know. That's my guess. And I was wrong. It was Chuck Howley. Does anybody even know who that is? Because I don't.
I can't say I do. I was thinking that might be a really old one, and I don't recognize that name. So
wasn't he a cowboy?
That's a great question. I genuinely don't think I've ever heard that name before in my life, and it was Super Bowl V, so that explains a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Cowboys, 1971.
Well, nice.
Well, all right, James.
Yeah.
And
you had me for a second. I'm not gonna lie.
no, I had no idea who that was, and even if it got passed, I was gonna say I don't know shit about that. So I just looked it up on the side. I'm like, oh. Come on, guys. 1971 Dallas. Come on.
I know. I intentionally didn't look it up before, in case Jace passed it to me, because I didn't want. Because then, if I had said, "Oh, was that Chuck Howley?" you guys would have been like, "Yeah, right." But,
no, I have no problem admitting I don't know shit. So even if I looked it up and he passed it to one, if it got passed to me, I'd be like, I don't fucking know, guys.
Yeah, I don't know
from Super
anyone
Bowl
that would know
V,
that one.
Call me on it. 20 years before me.
Right.
there's some pretty old ones in here. This is a pretty historic group of trivia questions, really.
Yeah, very true. I feel like we've gotten a lot more old questions than we have recent questions. Okay, so now for our last couple rounds, we are going to pivot from all-time Super Bowls to Super Bowl trivia that has to do with Seattle or New England. Just to, whittle it down a little bit. So, Ryan, we're going to start with you again. Just, keep it with the way it was. How many Super Bowl appearances total do the Patriots have, setting the NFL record?
So we were just talking about this earlier. It's got to be 9 or 10, I think. I'm going to go with 10.
So it's actually 12.
12. Okay, I was too low. Okay.
Which I know Belichick went to 10, right? Was it Parcells that got the other two?
Did he have 10?
Yeah.
I thought he had 9. I could be wrong.
Did he have 9?
obviously, but...
Okay.
I know he has
that's
7. 7 wins?
Yeah, 6 wins, I think, right? Because Tom has 7 rings, right?
I
And
think
he
they
won with
had
the Bucks.
2. I think Parcells, and then they may have had an earlier one with a previous coach like Raymond Barry. I guess I didn't factor that in. I was just thinking of the Belichick era.
Interesting. Okay.
They
According
lost to
Google,
they lost to the
Belichick-
Chicago Bears in 1986.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, 86 Bears. Okay, that is one I might know a tiny bit about, just because that's an infamous team. But according to Google, Belichick has 8 rings if you count his 2 he had as the Giants' defensive coordinator.
So I'm surprised that wasn't, back to your question, Jace. I'm surprised that they weren't the 4. So they lost. Did they lose 3 total then? Of the 12?
It seems to be the case. Let me see here. They lost to Chicago. They lost to
The Giants
Oh my
twice.
gosh, they lost more than 3. They lost to Chicago, they lost to Green Bay, they lost to the Giants twice, and they lost to the Eagles.
So you need to take back that drink. You were right about that answer, wasn't it? 4 losses. You had one of the correct teams.
No, that's a
I
good
don't
point.
think,
See, that's the problem with.
I don't know too much about running a show, but
Go ahead,
Jace regurgitating a drink, I don't think is going to get the views.
Yeah, well, you never know. You never know what
But it
happens.
will and
You
go
never know
super
what people are
viral.
into like that. But
Hey,
but,
if you want to, go for
right.
it, but
maybe
Here,
it's a pass.
I'll tell you what. I'll take an extra drink. That's where I'm at.
There we go.
It's Saturday, Super Bowl Saturday. Why not? Let's have some fun. With that being said, though, the next question is, honestly, some of these questions I feel like we've already answered just by having a conversation about it. But this one I think is a good one. Which Patriots player holds the Super Bowl record? This is for you, James, by the way. Which Patriots player holds the Super Bowl record for most receptions in a single game? And in which Super Bowl did he contribute the key catches? So I'll give you which player was it?
there's 2.
Oh, and actually I left one really big thing out. It's a tight end.
Okay, I was thinking of 2 players and neither were tight ends, so that does help. It's got to be Gronk then.
Yes, it is. And that's kind of why I didn't want to say tight end, but then I looked at the stat line and I was like, okay, I have to say tight end because it was 6 catches.
I was torn between Deion Branch or Wes Welker.
Yeah, Wes Welker's definitely a good one. Okay, I like this one for myself. The Seahawks are 1-3 all time in Super Bowls after their 4th appearance. What unique defensive stat from Super Bowl 48 still stands as a Super Bowl record on the opening play? And I just mentioned it, a safety. There was a safety on the opening play of the Seattle Denver Super Bowl because the center snapped the ball over Peyton Manning's head and he ran back in the end zone and fell on it. And it is correct, and that is a record. I didn't know that though. That's kind of crazy. That's the only time there has been a safety on the first play at the Super Bowl, which I guess if you think about it, is not that crazy.
I don't think that would be a common occurrence.
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah.
When we looked up, because you were going to talk about prop bets and things later, when I looked that up, safety was pretty long odds. I didn't actually write that one down, but safety just in general was long odds. I can't imagine what safety on the first play would have been. That whoever bet that is now retired.
Yeah, right. He's the second richest man on earth.
I only put 50 cents on it and I retired.
Right? It's like plus 5 million odds. With that being said, though, back to you, Ryan. Name the only Seahawks quarterback besides Russell Wilson to start in a Super Bowl.
Besides Russell Wilson, that's got to be Hasselbeck, right? Matt Hasselbeck.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, I at least got another one here. I couldn't just have one here so far. I'm good on the quarterback questions. Apparently, both the ones I've gotten right have both been quarterback related.
He was the only other Seattle quarterback I had in mind, so hopefully it was him.
I do remember that one because he was the starter for that game the one in Detroit that's my favorite. That was Super Bowl 40 there, Super Bowl XL. That was a good game. Yeah, he was the most prominent quarterback back in that day. That might have been a tougher question for somebody like Jace because of the age. He probably remembered. You remember the name though, and Tim.
Oh, absolutely. And
content
was Sean Alexander still the running back then for him?
Yeah, I think he was because he was kind of like the main driver of that offense at the time.
Jace might remember him just because he was on the cover of Madden. So I mean, there's at least
that's exactly where my brain went. You said Sean Alexander, I was like Madden 07, bro. Come on.
There you go. Like he was on the cover of Madden, so I know a lot of people will remember him for that or because of that.
Yeah, for sure. But with that being said, I think is it my turn now? I forgot who we're on.
I just went, so I think that's James.
Okay, James. All these wrong answers are catching up.
It depends on if it's easy or not. Otherwise,
yeah.
Well, you do have a pass, so you could put it on me technically if you'd like. But this one is somewhat hard, I will say. I don't know if you'll be able to get it because it is an exact number. It says the Seahawks Legion of Boom defense in Super Bowl 48 forced how many takeaways, including the opening safety? And that was the Super Bowl where they won 43-6 or 43-8 or whatever it was.
That's the one when they beat Denver?
Yes.
Oh, I actually might know this one because I'm a huge Brady fan, and back then, kind of like if you grew up in the 90s, it's either NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. It's either Brady or Manning. So I added that little knowledge tidbit to my anti-Manning brain, but I haven't had to use it in a while. I know I think he had 3 picks and 2 fumbles. I can't remember how many fumbles he lost though. But if you said counting the safety, okay, so I'm gonna go with 3 picks, 2 fumbles, and the safety. So I'm gonna go with 6.
You know, dude, you were so close. It's 4. It was 4. And the only reason you were wrong on this is he only threw 1 pick. You were right on everything else.
Damn it. I was going to say, I'm like, I used to know this. I used to be like, because I remember he had more turnovers than touchdowns in the game. Not that particular one, because that's the one they lost. But when he won his second ring with Denver, he also had more turnovers than touchdowns. So, like, as a Brady fan, I'm just like, man, Manning got carried to that second one.
Yeah, he did. And that's what happens, you know, when your defense is what that Denver Broncos defense was. I mean, we all remember. Miller. Yeah, the infamous play of that Super Bowl is Cam not falling on the fumble. I feel like that's what people remember more about that rather than how poor Peyton Manning played. Because let's be real, he did not play well at all. I think he had like 90 passing yards or something crazy.
It was
like
something
that.
like that. I know I was under 150 for sure, and I'm just like, come on.
I fell asleep during that game. I did. It was I was in Mexico at the time watching it, and I fell asleep.
So what were he had 1 pick and then how many fumbles? So 3.
He had 2 fumbles, 1 pick, and the safety.
Okay.
So 4 altogether.
Well, I'm wrong.
With that being said, this is our last trivia question, and we will move on to our predictions and things like that. In Super Bowl XLIX, what specific defensive personnel grouping did the Seahawks use on the goal line play that led to Malcolm Butler's interception, and why was passing instead of running with Marshawn Lynch statistically puzzling given the Seahawks' red zone efficiency this season? All right, well, I'm going to say the Seahawks were in nickel. I'm going to just go ahead and guess that because that seems super obvious. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm an idiot. The Seahawks, not the.
I was gonna say, I'm like Seahawks are on offense.
Okay, yeah.
I'm
stupid. Okay,
I'm not familiar with the nickel offense.
Well, it's this, it's this thing where you're really bad. No. Anyway,
The
so.
Jets run it then.
True, very true. Oh my gosh, what personnel grouping?
The nickel offense is half as bad as the dime offense, James.
Yeah,
James,
yeah.
that's
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me use deductive reasoning here, okay? As a football coach, right? I know in my head when you want to run the ball, you want more tight ends or running backs, right? Well, they came out and they didn't run the ball, so I'm going to say they used less tight ends and less running backs, and I'm going to say 11 personnel. just because I think that is the only way that you could figure that out, because how the hell would you know that other than that? And then it says, why was passing instead of running it statistically puzzling? Well, I'm going to say because Marshawn Lynch is Marshawn Lynch, and I'm going to just leave it at that. And it was 11 personnel, and it was
Nice.
statistically puzzling because
Marshawn
they should
Lynch.
have. Literally, the question says they should have ran it.
Yeah, you have the right answer. Like that, I don't care what the answer is. You have the answer right there. Whatever the statistical modeling
Yeah, exactly.
was from the book, from the statistical book that they use, that probably wasn't as advanced back then, would have been very heavily favored. I mean, you're talking 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, something like that.
Yeah, very, and that's the thing too. I think that's why the Seahawks decided to throw the ball, because they're like, well, everybody thinks we're going to run it. Well, it's, what was it, second down, I think? It's like, dude, you run it till you can't no more. That's how I look at that personally. Like, but I'm not the one who lost the Super Bowl, so.
I remember exactly where I was for that moment. I was sitting at my now wife, then girlfriend's friend's apartment at the University of Michigan, hanging my head because I'm like, they're gonna run this. Obviously, as I mentioned, I'm a Brady fan. Like, they're gonna run this. Brady's not gonna get another ring, and this all sucks. And then they threw it, and obviously Malcolm Butler got the interception. And I'm like, what were they? I mean, yay, but what the hell were they doing? Like, I don't care if everyone in the stadium knew it was coming. You were not stopping it. Like,
There's a time and place for that stuff. I mean, we even saw that on the Lions. Like, I like how Ben Johnson was very good at it the last year. He was the offensive coordinator for the Lions. You know, running on 3rd and 7 at the 45 when they might go for it on 4th, stuff like that. That's off game script. I can get on board with. But yeah, putting the ball in the air like that. When you have Marshawn Lynch, I mean, like you said, James, I get that it's the counter argument, but I don't, it's easy in retrospect, but even at the time that had to be the heavy underdog, to choose from a statistical standpoint. And I know Marshawn is still not happy about that.
oh,
but
absolutely. It's kind of like, I mean, the tush push wasn't a thing back then, but I feel like you know it's coming and you still say, hey, you got to stop it. Like, that's what the equivalency would have been. Like, everyone knows Marshawn's getting the ball, but good luck stopping him, because I believe it was at the 1, 2 at most.
Yeah.
It was right there. I mean,
In-
he could have
in
even
my
just jumped the
opinion-
pile.
Yeah, exactly. And in my opinion, they did the worst play they could have ran, because they ran a pick play for a slant. And it's like the odds that you're going to get a pass interference on that are pretty high. So the whole thing didn't really make a lot of sense to me, personally. Like, even if you're going to throw it, I think you could have done it a little better, maybe an RPO, but RPOs weren't that big at that time in the NFL, unfortunately, for the Seahawks. So, with that being said, though, moving on from our trivia portion, which that was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for joining me in that, and everyone who followed along. This is your time to now get involved with the conversation, because we're gonna start talking about predictions and things like that. And if you're watching, drop in the comments your Super Bowl prediction, your Super Bowl MVP prediction, and then one over-the-top prediction, something crazy that if you bet on it, it might be like plus 1,000 or something like that. Drop that in the comments while you're watching, and we will get to them as we talk. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start with something a little fun, a little goofy, before we get too serious. We're going to guess the best commercial of the Super Bowl, okay? And this is, there's not a lot riding on this. So, all we're going to go with is guess which brand, and you can get special points if you guess the pop culture reference that brand makes. So for me personally, okay, call me crazy, I'm going to go with Ozempic. I think Ozempic might come out with some commercial that kind of blows people away, because I've been seeing some of their commercials recently, and they are kind of funny, honestly. Like, they do a decent job of making them pretty funny, even for, what it is, a weight loss drug. And I could also see them buying some Super Bowl, space. And for the pop culture reference, I feel like Back to the Future. I don't know why, but I'm feeling Back to the Future. So that's my best commercial guess. James, what is yours?
Sorry, I'm just trying to think of Back to the Future Ozempic. Um, you got
It's Back to the
Doc running.
Future where you're skinny, brother. That's what it's.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
Marty, it's your kids. They're obese. Like what?
yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Doc is overweight by now.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I just gave them an idea. That's all I'm saying. If they don't do it, they should.
Watch them run this shit and be like, how did they know? I have no idea about the like what kind of cultural reference or whatever they're gonna put, but historically, I'd say 7 out of 10 times the last several Super Bowls I've watched, which I mean is every, I come away thinking Doritos had a top
Yep.
5 commercial. Doritos is always consistent with putting out some funny, um, I don't know, because they're just wacky and weird. But Doritos is the brand I would say is going to have the memorable commercial.
And honestly, I was going to say the same thing, and the only reason I didn't is because of what you said beforehand, which was they are pretty much always the one that everyone walks away and says like that one was pretty good. So with that being said, Ryan, what do you got for best commercial?
So, okay, so I could kind of go aggregate if I was going to try to reason my way through it. So I'm going to do half aggregation and reasoning and half kind of what I want to see, because my favorite types of commercials are basically what you're talking about. The references to, different show. I like the show reboots as commercials. That's one of my favorite trends that's been happening. They had the Breaking Bad one. They've had other ones in recent years. And so being on Peacock, that's where I'm going to go aggregation reasoning with this one. You could make it a brand like Budweiser or something that's very, very popular, but I'm going to go with a brand that was tied to my reference. So Peacock, obviously their most prominent show that's on their streaming service, and they rebooted it to be called The Paper, but was The Office, and they're still going to be pushing that. That's still in the algorithm of modern day. They might have more offshoots of that show, but they had an early show where they all went to Chili's for an award ceremony for their office. So I'm going to say a Chili's commercial where they reunite the office, because I think if I were Chili's, which I'm taking out Chili's. Hopefully they're not a sponsor of your podcast, but they're downsizing a little bit, so it's like if I were Chili's, that'd be a good way to get back into the pop culture market and say, hey, we're going to use the fact that The Office went there, although they were making fun of them a little bit by going to Chili's, but it would be funny if Chili's leaned into it and reunited the Office cast for Dundies, the Dundies, as you said, James, whatever version they would be on now, like, the 30th Dundies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that, honestly, not only because I think it is a solid guess, but also I love Chili's. Personally, I'm a big Chili's fan.
I do
was
too.
just there yesterday. I go there kind of often. So
I don't think I've been there in 10 years.
bro,
I love The Office,
it's beautiful. Chili's is a beautiful place.
Yeah. To the Chili's sponsors out there, sponsor the podcast for Jason James. It's a good place. I used to go there all the time when I was a kid, and they have good deals now.
I would go there if
they
they
do.
sponsored us. So
There you go.
Hey, look, all I ask, you don't even have to pay me. Just give me a free 3 for me and a beer every week, and we'll be good. I'll shout you out once a week on the show. With that being said, though, moving on to our actual predictions for the game. So we've had a lot of fun on the show so far, but it's time to get serious, okay? Who do you guys think is going to win the Super Bowl? Because I think this Super Bowl is kind of obvious, okay? It's one of those that, like, we all know who's going to win, and it's the Seahawks, right? I mean, I think we all can kind of agree that if you're betting, you might put some money on the Patriots because they're that big of an underdog, but I think the Seahawks are going to take this, and honestly, I don't think it's going to be that close. So before we get too far into that, that's my prediction for the Super Bowl. Seattle wins, and it's by quite a bit. James, what is your Super Bowl prediction?
I have Seattle in a landslide as well. I feel a little guilty, even though I made on a sheet of paper while I was upstairs my predictions and all that kind of stuff. When I came downstairs to my office here and put them in the official show sheet, we are pretty much lockstep on a lot of our stuff. So it looks like I just copied you, but they were our original thoughts. But yeah, I have Seattle and handily.
And Ryan?
I mean, I feel like the best thing is for me to take the Patriots, given how you guys are leading into that. I had this when when I was doing my show and the Lions were playing Washington. I had four different pundits on: Pride of Detroit, Lions Wire, different outfits, and I desperately wanted somebody to take Washington and say, oh, they'll put up a fight, because I had a sneaking suspicion that it would be closer than what it was, and then nobody did, and then we know what happened in that game. But I don't think I can. I that would be disingenuous if I take the Patriots. I'm with you guys. I think I could see two different scenarios though, so I guess I'll play those out. I could see it being a blowout. I think it's a game script issue. If the Patriots can stay in it and not have to drop back and have May drop back and try to get them back into it, and if they can keep it close, be able to feature the running game, then maybe they can hang in there and make it a close game. And then that's the scenario that I think the Patriots could win, because if it comes down to a final possession, somebody making a play, you have a David Tyree catch against the helmet kind of moment, or whatever. Sorry, James, I know you're a Patriots fan, but
No, just Brady.
Just Brady. Okay, well, yeah, but in the Giants win, but you have things like that, but I think Seattle's better basically at all three phases of the game. I have more trust in Darnold at this point in his career. I know we talked about the trenches a little bit. I trust the line of Seattle a lot more. I think that unit is very strong. The Patriots unit, I think, is going to be strong in the future, and they've invested a lot in it. But they've had some major malfunctions. You're better with that stuff than I am, Jace, with being a coach and stuff. But it just seems like, if I'm going to trust something, they're solid at all three phases of the game, and I want to have more trust in my offensive line than I do in the Patriots, but I do in Seattle's.
Yeah, and I would say I would agree with everything you said there. Especially with, I do think this game could be close for the reasons you suggested, and I do feel like the Patriots right now are being a little overlooked, and I think that might help them out, as they're sitting in the locker room today and tomorrow preparing for the game. Like, no one thinks they're going to win this game, and we've seen crazier things happen. And I do think the strength of schedule is brought up a lot with the Patriots, which I've been a proponent of myself, because as far as I am aware, they have the easiest strength of schedule of any Super Bowl team ever. And that could be a positive if you're thinking about it like, oh well, they didn't have to go through all the bumps and bruises in the regular season, so they're healthy, going in the playoffs and things like that. But at the same time, it is kind of a negative, because you haven't really had to play, the teams that Seattle has had to play. I mean, they played the Rams 3 times this year, and the Rams are one of the better teams in the league. So, with that being said, though, I do think, that the Patriots have a little more of a chance than a lot of people are saying. I do think, though, Seattle still takes it pretty handedly. But with that being said, before we move on into more of our Super Bowl predictions for this Super Bowl, I wanted to ask you guys, starting with James, what is your favorite Super Bowl or Super Bowls, and like a quick synopsis on them throughout the history?
Yeah, my favorite Super Bowl is Super Bowl 34. It's the Tennessee Titans versus the Rams. Once again, I grew up a Rams fan. That is and you probably have at least seen the final play. I'm not expecting you to know everything, but that is the Dyson reach out at I'd say his hip is at the 3, but with his arm extended, it's like 4 to 5 inches short of the goal line of what would have been the game-winning touchdown. It is the epitome of game of inches, and I don't think to this day there's been a more exciting finish to a Super Bowl, because on the final play, you're less than a yard shy of the game-winning touchdown. I don't know how it can get better than that personally. Plus, the Rams won. And my other favorite Super Bowl is Super Bowl 43, Pittsburgh, Arizona, just because that Santonio Holmes catch. That was a pretty good back and forth game. I was rooting for Arizona because, kind of like the Lions, they've been down for quite a while. So I was hoping at least some fan base can have some enjoyment, but that's not how it worked out. But it ended up being a fantastic game, and like I said, at the time, I would even say that was probably the greatest catch of all time. It was a hell of a catch. In addition to the situation, in addition to it being a game winner, in addition to it being the Super Bowl, it was just a hell of a catch in its own right. Um, like obviously it wasn't the same type of catch, but it reminds me of like Tesla, week one against Green Bay. Like it was in terms of catch amazing, but Tesla's was in garbage time, didn't affect the game at all, was only week one. So like all the other situational stuff wasn't there. This was an amazing catch, and it had everything on the line. The Super Bowl was on the line and everything else. So yeah, so Super Bowl 34 and then Super Bowl 43 are my two favorite Super Bowls.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of that, I would say my couple favorite, which I have three, so I'm kind of cheating. But three for three different reasons. Okay, so the first one, Super Bowl 46, the Patriots Giants second time around. The reason I love this Super Bowl so much is because I remember this Super Bowl the most out of those first few that I watched. Like I know we talked a little bit earlier in the show that that Super Bowl 43 was the first one I really remember, but I remember being so certain the Giants were going to win the second time. And I bet my dad's friend $50. I was like, 8 years old. I didn't have $50, but I was so certain that the Giants were going to win that I was like, yeah, man, I'll take your money. And so that one was really fun for me because it was very similar, the Mario Manningham catch, the beating Tom Brady again, which lives fondly in my memory as just one of those David versus Goliath moments. It's like that was awesome to watch. And then my second one would be Super Bowl 47 the next year, which we kind of talked about before, which was the Harbaugh Bowl, San Francisco, Baltimore. The reason I love this Super Bowl so much is I'm a pseudo Ravens fan. I've always loved the Ravens since I was a kid. Ray Lewis is probably my favorite NFL player of all time. So being able to watch him win a Super Bowl, especially having been in Baltimore that year, because my family had a wedding down there, it was kind of a cool moment for me. And also the Harbaugh Bowl I thought was awesome. Two brothers coaching against each other in the Super Bowl kind of blew my mind. And then the last one is Super Bowl 51, New England, Atlanta, and that one is because the comeback, man.
28 to 3.
That was just ridiculous. Like I remember leaving the Super Bowl party at halftime and going home because my parents were like, "Yeah, this is just a blowout." And they didn't even watch the second half. I went home and watched it by myself. And I was just like, bro, what did I just see? Like this really just happened in front of me. Like it blew my mind as someone who like everybody thought that game was completely over at halftime. For them to come back and the comeback was awesome, but the way that they did it, it was just like one of those all-time moments that I don't think I'll ever forget. So those are mine. Ryan, what are your favorite Super Bowls from history?
Those are all good. I remember that Tennessee one well, James, and because not only did they have that play, but they had the Music City Miracle earlier in that, and so that whole playoff run was very cool. But and then all the ones you mentioned, Jace, you can't really beat. I don't think you can beat the New England comeback one, no matter who you're a fan of, or some of those.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, a lot of those New England games. But for me, it was a convalescence of kind of where I was when I was watching it, and as close as I've been to having kind of a personal attachment, I guess, to it, because obviously as Lions fans, we've never had the Lions in a Super Bowl, so we can't really do anything with that. Yeah, so we're waiting on that one. But the one I referenced, the Super Bowl 40, I was actually in Spain on a study abroad tour, and I was in a sports bar there watching the Steelers Seahawks game. And as you can tell, if you can see my gear, I'm an Indiana grad, and Antoine Randall was my quarterback at Indiana at the time. Favorite college player of all time. I was elated when he became part of the Lions staff. He's not anymore, sadly. But him being a prominent part of that game, the game being in Detroit, that was the best connection we've had to the Super Bowl. So watching that in Spain and that trick play of him throwing to Hines Ward, all of that was the closest I've been to being connected to it. Because now that Indiana actually went to the college football playoff final, I've seen, because I actually was there in Miami, so I've seen my college team in a football final, and I've seen the other 3 Detroit teams in a final. I just need the Lions. I've been at all of those live. I don't know how we'll be able to work the Super Bowl tickets, but because that's going to be an expensive ticket to when the Lions, like you said, James, when the Lions make it.
Yes.
And I love the verbiage there, like you just said, when, not if, because that's where we're at now as Lions fans. We can finally say that and feel somewhat confident that at some point it will happen. Because I remember, growing up, it's like looking up, like, Dad, are we ever gonna do it? Are we ever gonna make this happen?
Of course
And
we are.
now, right? It's like, yeah, son, just keep believing. It's like, all right.
I don't lie to your
But with
son.
that said, literally, please don't. With that said, we will move on to our I guess over the top predictions, because this one is a little fun. Obviously, there are many things that could happen that could be crazy. But for me, my over the top predictions are, like I mentioned before, Seattle winning by 30. I don't think that will happen, but I definitely could see it. And as a betting man, I probably will put a little bit of money on Seattle covering 20 points. So,
I would
um,
just say, since I have it open on my FanDuel app, or I'm sorry, my sports betting app, we're not sponsored. The odds are good enough if you did want to even put just a tiny bit down on the winning by more than 29.5. It is plus 2,200. So, I'm
well,
not saying
that's
put your life savings or anything, but $2 wins you 44. So,
yeah, I'm gonna do that. I think honestly, I genuinely didn't think it would be that good of odds, which is kind of crazy. But I will definitely take that. And
yeah,
then my
that's
other over the top predictions are, for some reason, okay, I don't know what it is, but I smell a Kenneth Walker big game. 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't know what it is, but that's just what I'm feeling. Um, I could see that, and obviously, I could also see JSN having a good game. So, JSN, 150 yards, Sam Darnold 300 plus, I think could be a solid parlay. If that were to happen, you'd probably win quite a bit of money. And then on the flip side, I think New England 2 defensive touchdowns could be possible, because we've seen it before with Sam Darnold against the New England Patriots. I'm seeing ghosts. We've all seen it before, so I don't think it would be that crazy. But with that being said, Ryan, what are your over the top predictions for the Super Bowl?
I like those ones. Yeah, the Walker one I like a lot, because I think, as far as what we're talking about with possible game script and them running a lot and controlling the ball, if they do get the lead, Walker's matchup against this defense I think is pretty good too, and he's been getting hot in the playoffs as well, with Charbonnet being out. But I'm gonna go themed here a little bit, because I now have the show with infamous kicker Shane Graham. So we've been talking a lot of kicking, so I always have it on the brain. And I asked him his thoughts about the Super Bowl, and we talked a lot about the kickers. And he actually had an interesting tidbit about Jason Myers being the kind of purest kicker that he's ever seen, that the form is very pure. And so I'm going to play into your odds a little bit, like on the 30-point thing here. And I might have to get you guys are better with the betting. I don't do any betting, but I don't know what's a crazy number. But I want to go with a Jason Myers high number as far as point total between field goals and extra points kicked. I'm thinking something like 12 points for Jason Myers, because I feel like that's a convalescence of what we're talking about. If they do win by 30, if they do have a high score, he's going to be kicking a lot of extra points and probably add a few field goals here. So like a 12 to 15 point total for Myers. I think I looked at the line. I think he was 8.5 for the line, probably based on the fact that they're due to score a decent amount of points. So and 1.5 field goals kicked, I think. So I'll go the over on those and say a high point total for him, because I could see that because the Patriots could be in bend not break kind of form early. So then you get onto their side of the field, you rack up a few field goals, and then maybe the dam bursts and your 30-point, especially if you have juice on it, I'll be rooting for it. But your 30-point victory then happens, and he knocks a few extra points through.
Yeah, I really like that, honestly, and that's not something you really hear, with kicker totals. But honestly, I think I might bet on that because you made a very good argument for it. And like you mentioned, if you're on the Seattle's going to win by 30 train, that means he's going to have a lot of kicks. So yeah, I definitely like that bet. And then James, what is your over the top prediction for tomorrow's game?
Sadly, when I was thinking about this in my head, I thought it was over the top, but once again, we're pretty much in lockstep. I have Darnold over 300 yards and K9 here with over. I have 100 rushing, not 150 like you do, but I do think the Seattle offense is going to have 400 to 450 yards of production. I was going to say today, tomorrow, and it would be better if they did it today. But yeah, and I'm right there with you. I deleted my Seattle by 30 part because you had it, so I wasn't going to try to steal your thunder. I'm already piggybacking on a lot of what you said. Um, but I just, in as you and Ryan have stated, I don't really see a way. I mean, I could easily be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times. I don't see a way that New England can even keep this close. My head is just I don't see how New England can keep up with Seattle. I think the Rams are a much better team than New England, and Seattle just throttled them. I don't like New England's D line as much as I like the Rams D line. I don't like New England's weapons better than the Rams' weapons, and Seattle, I mean, put away the Rams, and I don't think that game was particularly close either. So I mean, any given Sunday, I mean, obviously the Patriots do have a chance. I didn't think the Giants had much of a chance against the Patriots when they had Randy Moss and they were 18 and 0 and all that, but look what happened. So, like I said, we'll see what happened, but I just have Seattle just destroying them. I can see this being like I don't quite want to say a 28-3 game, but just such a one-sided game that some people will be turning this off at halftime or the third quarter.
I think I could see that scenario that Jace was talking about with the 2 defensive touchdowns from the Patriots. That's the one where if they can have a big play where they kind of flip the odds, where maybe it's like a punt block near the end zone, or and get a touchdown off of that. That's kind of the only scenario that I foresee, if they can kind of crush that pocket, get Darnold a little nervous, and then get a turnover that turns into defensive points, which is where that probably would be a good bet if that's what you think is going to happen on that side of things, as probably a bet that is fairly good odds, as far as if you hit it.
Yeah, I do like Christian
Yeah.
Gonzalez as a player, so I'm not saying New England doesn't have anybody, but I just feel like, okay, Seattle's got just more. Like you can just move JSN around and whatnot, and there's, as you guys know, there's ways to scheme a guy open. So I just think between JSN, Walker, I just think it's too much.
Yeah, and I think I would definitely agree with that. The reason Christian Gonzalez is kind of the reason I picked New England to have 2 defensive touchdowns. Not just him, they also have a pretty solid pass rush. So I could see, Mike Vrabel, putting together some defensive stuff to get Sam Darnold a little confused, and then that being the case. But like Ryan mentioned, I think that might be the only way New England has a real chance. So we'll see on that front. But with that being said, what are your predictions for Super Bowl MVP? Because we all kind of, agreed that, Sam Darnold or Seattle will probably win, which probably means Sam Darnold will be MVP. But if you believe, like Ryan and I do, that K9 might have a huge game, he would be a good pick as well. And then, of course, you have Jackson Smith and Jigba. However, do you guys remember the last Super Bowl MVP for the Seattle Seahawks?
So it's got to be in that Broncos game, right? Right, Jace? It's because they didn't win the Patriots game the last time. I mean, I would think it would be, with all those defensive plays, it would be a defensive player, right? So you got the Legion of Boom defense, Sherman. Maybe would it be a safety? Would it be somebody like Earl Thomas?
So Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor.
So these are all great guesses, but wrong. It was Malcolm Smith, the linebacker.
Oh, I would see if I would have gone linebacker.
That was on the
I would've
tip
gone
of my tongue.
I would have gone Bobby Wagner. That would have
Mhm.
been the
Yeah.
first linebacker for me.
Well, and the funny thing about him was he was really great in that Super Bowl, and then he got signed by the Raiders and sucked and was like, he did not do very well his first year there, and then he had a super injury riddled year the next season, and then he got cut and really didn't hear from him too much after that. So it was definitely a, career peak for him, which, obviously we'll never touch that. So congratulations to you. But that's just a name you
I'm
don't
only
hear.
34. Maybe I can.
Right? I mean, Tom Brady exists. You never know.
Late start.
I'm the old head on this conversation, so I'm out, guys. I'm done.
You can be
But,
the football version of the rookie.
Right. But Malcolm Smith is not a name you would have guessed. Like, Ryan,
No.
you had great guesses. Legion of Boom. It's the Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellors, Bobby Wagner, even KJ Wright, I would even say, before a guy like Malcolm Smith or a
Was Cliff Averill on that team?
Cliff
Yeah.
Averill, yeah, exactly. So all those names I would have said way before I ever thought of him. So definitely an odd spot, but we could see something like that happen again on the flip side for the Patriots. Maybe some defensive player comes out and, goes crazy and wins MVP. However, my prediction, I'm going to stay safe and I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker. I do think the Seahawks are going to win, and I do think they're going to win behind their run game. I think Darnold is going to play okay, but I don't think he's going to come out and throw for 400 yards. I do think Gonzalez is going to do a good job against JSN. So I don't necessarily think they're going to have a great day passing the ball. And, if you look at the Patriots' defensive statistics throughout the season, it kind of lends its hand into that because they're 10th overall rushing defense, which isn't bad. But when you look at their yards per game overall, they're second. And points per game, they're second. So their passing defense is pretty damn good, and I could definitely see Seattle, running the ball a little bit more, like Ryan said earlier, with their offensive line being a strength. So with that said, James, what is your prediction for MVP?
Justin Myers. Ryan really turned me around. No.
I mean, I was with you. I was totally with you.
For those, I glanced at it while he was talking about it. It is 10,000 to 1 for him to win MVP. So if you are a betting man, I'm not too much. I did put 2 different bets in for this game, but the odds are there. If someone out there is confident enough, I am not. But no, I have JSN. I think he's just having an unbelievable season. I think that Seattle will, I don't want to say abuse, but I guess I would just say abuse the defense with the run game, force more guys in the box, force more one-on-ones with JSN. He's not strictly like an inside or outside receiver. They like to move him around. They're going to find the mismatches, and I don't know if he'll have too big of an impact early on because I think they want to establish the run to try to make the defense account for K9, and then JSN's going to go off, in my opinion. But I think he's good for. I just have the vision in my head of like a 60 or 70-yard touchdown. I feel like it's going to be a massive, big play. So I don't think he's going to have like 20 or let's be realistic. I don't think he's going to have like 15 catches, but I can see him having like 8 receptions for 200 yards, like just kind of really making them count. And like I said, I do love Christian Gonzalez. He's a hell of a player. Even Carlton Davis, like they have a really good cornerback combo over there. But I just think JSN is on a different level this season. And it pains me to say that because he's an OSU guy, but I can't lie with what my eyes see. So obviously, normally quarterbacks will get, even if JSN has a huge day, they might give it to Darnold just because quarterbacks are often rewarded. But my prediction would be for JSN.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's a good point, considering even though they do have great corners, the Patriots run a lot of man coverage. So JSN being one of the better route runners in the league, I think is going to give them fits regardless. So good points there. Ryan, what is your prediction for MVP?
So if you hadn't taken Walker, I probably would have gone him. That's probably where I'm leaning. I can't take Darnold. That's just too lame. It's the odds-on favorite. We're just going to be hitting the 3 favorites as far as the betting odds go. So I got to go with something a little bit more outlandish. I pulled
Myers?
up the odds. What's that?
said Myers.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad one. That would be very on brand. I probably should do that for brand synergy with the show. But
I said you had all those kickers on.
yeah, exactly. So I should just do that. But I already gave him his shine in the last segment. I was looking at the odds because I was just curious what I hadn't pulled this up in advance as far as some of those ones that you guys brought up are the kind of the obvious ones. And but I could see a couple. I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go the defensive route and go with a Malcolm Smith style pick. If I'm gonna go something outlandish, I could go like a Cooper Kupp. He's I think plus 9,000 or something. That's that's a lot of juice there from a talented player if he all of a sudden got involved or JSN was out for a little while or whatever. It also makes sense to go with somebody like Shaheed because if he returns a kick or a punt and then gets pretty involved on offense, you could see that as far as the long odds. But I'm going to go defensive players since we got two offensive players. I'm going to go Nick Amanawari. Because he's a safety that gets involved. He was hurt this week. He's been deemed to be healthy. Maybe that injury kind of gets him more focused. He's a safety that gets involved in a lot of different things. So if I were going to pick a defensive player, that's probably the one. You could go with like a Malcolm Smith style with like an Ernest Jones or somebody like that at the linebacker position. But I'm gonna go completely off the board and go Amanawari, who I think is like plus 10,000 odds. Actually close to Kupp though, which is weird. That seems high. I know it's not likely, but he's also a former, he's a very talented player, former league leader and all of that stuff. So depending on what happens with the personnel, I can see that happening. But I'll go way off the board because Darnold would have just been a boring pick to end the segment on.
Yeah, and I love that because I do think that actually has some legs to it, right? Because, all it really takes, like, I think Malcolm Smith in that Super Bowl, he had like 8 tackles and fumble recovery for a touchdown. That's all he had. So if Amanawari can have like 8 tackles and a pick 6, I mean, I don't think that's really out of the realm of possibility. So I definitely like that prediction. And then last but not least, the last segment of the show is our best bets segment because who doesn't love winning money, right? Especially when you're sitting down watching a football game and you get to win some money while you do it. So personally for me, I think there are a lot of bets that you could make. A lot of parlays that you could make that probably would hit during this game. But for me, my favorite bets, we've talked about Kenneth Walker a lot on this show already, so he's definitely going to be a name that I mentioned quite a bit here. Kenneth Walker, 80-plus rushing and receiving yards is minus 275. I think that's pretty much a lock because not only are you getting his rushing yards, you're also getting his receiving. So either way, he should be able to hit that number unless he gets injured. And then also Kenneth Walker, over 72.5 rushing yards is at minus 110. JSN anytime touchdown is at minus 110 as well. Over 45.5 total points is at minus 108. And I think, each team to score 22, 24 points, I don't think is crazy. And like we mentioned before, if it is a blowout, if Seattle wins by a lot, I think they'll hit this over anyway. And then I also have JSN 70-plus receiving yards at minus 280, JSN 6-plus catches at minus 310. And then to kind of throw something in here, and if you ask me, I would parlay all these together, okay? Because you could make yourself a pretty solid parlay with all these bets. But I will also add to that Stephon Diggs at 25-plus receiving yards at minus 440, and then Boutte at 25-plus at minus 178, I think are steals for their value. Because if the Patriots get any movement on offense, I think both of those guys have over 25 receiving yards. And then last but not least, I have Ramondre Stevenson, 50-plus rushing yards, and that is at minus 114. And the reason I say that is he's the number one back. Like we mentioned before, Ryan specifically, this is going to be a trench warfare kind of game. So I do expect both run games to do pretty well, and I don't think 50 yards is a hard line to hit for him, especially at those odds. So with that being said, James, what are your best bets for this game?
Yeah, I just put together a parlay that I put in a day ago. Unfortunately, if someone wants to piggyback on this, the odds have changed since I put them in yesterday. But I have the over total of 45 and a half. Because I do think Seattle's going to win by 30. So, I mean, obviously, the most of the legwork is going to be Seattle in that. And this is all in a parlay. Over 45 and a half. Seattle by 4.5 or more, which I think that's safe, but that's what the betting line was. I kind of wish I moved it up, but that is what it is. A Kenneth Walker anytime touchdown and a JSN anytime touchdown. It's going at plus five. At the time was plus 570. My $10 bet I can win up to 67. So I feel like none of that is too out of the realm as long as Seattle's offense moves like I think it will. I mean, I think it's a pretty safe bet for JSN and Walker to at least have one score, if not more. And with their offensive performance, I mean, I think them winning by at least, well, obviously not 4.5, but you gotta have the hook for the bet. So them winning by 5 is, in my opinion, a given. I mean, like I said, I think they could easily win by 25 plus. I think 30 is possible. I mentioned that a few times, but I think even conservatively, I could say 21. I mean, maybe they give up a garbage time touchdown at the end to, cut into that, 25-ish number or whatever. But that's my bet that I was at least willing to put my money where my mouth is on that one.
Yeah, and I definitely like that parlay. I don't think it's anything crazy, for instance, but I do think all of those bets have a good chance to hit. And at plus, you said 570, that's pretty solid odds. I think if you bet $10, you'd win 57, right? If I'm correct on that.
67 according to
67.
and that's
So
what my ticket says.
you would net 67, including
Oh
your
yeah,
10.
yeah. So yeah, net win of 57.
So, I mean, solid bet, solid odds, and I think that those all have really good chance of hitting. The only thing is, for me personally, I don't know what it is. I hate anytime touchdown bets. Like I know I put one on mine, but it's like for some reason, anytime I bet on them, they don't hit. I don't understand. So I've kind of been, taking those out of my parlays and putting in more of those like, oh, this running back's going to have 25 yards or this receiver. So personally, I've gotten away from those, but I still think those are very good lines. Now, with that being said, Ryan, what are your best bets for this game?
Okay, so now I'm going back to my branding here to be on theme since James wants me to talk more Jason Myers here. But I'm going to give the punter some shine. We don't talk about the punting, so I'm going to talk about all phases of the kicking game a little bit here because I already mentioned the 8.5 for Myers points wise. I think given the point total that we're talking about, that's a pretty good bet. You don't have to worry about field goals. You don't have to worry about he'll probably add one or two at least. That's I think 1.5. So if you're worried about that, you can just go over 8.5. I think that's a pretty good bet. That's minus 115. So then I'm going to go with the other two kind of phases of the kicking game that don't necessarily go with that, and it would be an interesting parlay, I think. So touchbacks, the for under 3.5 touchbacks, it's minus 125. I could see hitting the under there, even in what could be a high scoring game, because Myers only hits a touchback 17% of the time. He's very good at hitting the landing zone. So if they are the ones that have a lot of kickoffs, I still don't think they're going to kick a lot of touchbacks in general. So then that number probably stays low. And then got to get the punter involved. So Michael Dixon under 57.5 yards for his longest punt is minus 115. I feel like that's a pretty good bet given field position. He's not a hang time guy, and you're not going to have field position I don't think you're going to be knocked back where he's just going to be booming one very, very often. I think they're going to be further ahead in the field as far as the field position battle goes. So yeah, I figured I'd nerd out on some kicking ones since you guys covered the other ones pretty good.
No, honestly, I love it because, same thing with your MVP, same thing with the earlier prediction. I feel like we're a little lame now. I'm sitting here like, man, I could have done so much cooler stuff with this because I didn't even think about kickers or punters. And I love that because, like we said, if, let's say, our prediction comes true where the Seahawks win by 30, I doubt they're punting very much. So I definitely love taking the under on the punter yards. And with that being said, personally, right, bet responsibly, okay? But I do think
Yes.
all of us just gave some pretty good lines. So if you're interested in betting and you really want to get some wins, I would go back, rewind this a little bit, and open your FanDuel app and make sure you get these bets in. So with that being said, that is all we have for the show today. Unfortunately, we had a lot of fun. I am not ready to leave personally, but that's all we got. So Ryan, as always, I appreciate you for joining us. If you want to tell everybody where to find you and where to check you out.
Yeah, happy to join you guys. Fun stuff. I enjoyed it, and I rarely do the betting stuff because the only betting segments I do on my show are like gambling legalities here in Michigan, because one of my buddies was the legal analyst bringing it to the state and stuff like that. So so that was fun to kind of deep dive into that. But yeah, fun stuff. I'm on the radio on Jethro FM Monday and Thursday nights, 7 to 9, both nights. Sports Intel on Monday, and then Shane Graham's Extra Points on Thursday. So be sure to check us out. We're also on all the podcasts, social media, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, enjoyed it, and we'll definitely have both you guys on the show here, because thankfully with the Shane Graham show, we're now doing lines every week in the off season even. So we'll need to get you guys on so that we can do some off season builds. I saw that you posted one recently, Jace, about kind of going through the budget and re-signing guys and restructuring guys. So we're going to have a lot of talk about that here in the off season.
Oh yeah, and I definitely look forward to that, and I also look forward to having you on once again. As always, we definitely appreciate it. You can find us at me at JSoSweet, James at Gullet_James. You can find both of us at MIFB Network and MichiganFootballNetwork.com. If you're looking for any new sports memorabilia, anything really, shirts, jerseys, hats, anything, Fanatics is the place to go. The link is in the description. And once again, we appreciate you guys for watching. As always, it is a bittersweet moment because tomorrow is the end of the football season. So we will see you guys next week. And we appreciate you guys for watching.